Here we are now at Part 4, page 259, Chapter 8, Joints. We just got through talking about pronation and supination. Okay, so pronation and supination is dependent upon, and here we're looking at a left hand as I noted to you before, is we have a carry angle when we're supinated, and we have, when we're pronated, we have closed the carry angle and created a stronger mechanism for using our muscles. Okay, this is also something you might notice when your desk drawer, since we're home so much these days, your desk drawer might get caught, or your kitchen drawer might get stuck in some way, and you're attempting to pull it open in the usual way that you do in order to grab a spoon or something like this, but it's stuck and you can't get it open. And so what you do is you place your hand on the counter and you turn your hand over in the prone position, and then you really yank at it. Okay, and notice that no matter whether I'm pushing or pulling, that the prone position is a stronger position. So I wanted to sort of re-emphasize that. Thank you. Okay, so now we come to this next convention of movement, which is dorsiflexion and plantar flexion. So the ankle, as I've previously mentioned to you, can only flex or in one way or the other. That is to say, it's a simple hinge joint, much to the dismay of shoe salesmen. But that's how it is. If there's other types of movement that I'll allude to, which actually are what shoe people are talking about. This right here, though, is lifting the toe. If you want to reach the next step when you're climbing steps, you're going to have to dorsiflex a little bit. Or if you're going to kick the ball, you're probably going to dorsiflex as you poke the ball up. Then as you're pushing down, maybe you're going up steps, as noted, and you're pushing down and lifting the weight of your body before you take the next step. So this pushing downward this way in the direction of the sole of the foot is called plantar flexion. So the plantar surface is the sole of the foot. The dorsum of the foot is the top of the foot. So you can see that the language here is consistent. So dorsiflexion, flexing toward the dorsum of the foot. Plantar flexion, flexing toward the plantar surface. Now this is what the running shoe salesmen are actually alluding to. And it involves a variety of bones here that are actually, they're kind of gliding, if you think about it. Okay, so we have bringing the sole of the foot, the plantar surface, inward in this direction, and it's called inversion because we're bringing the sole inward. Okay, and then we have the going the other way, eversion, and so we're bringing the sole outward that way, and it's called eversion. So inversion, eversion. These are important details because there's going to be muscles that have these movements that are going to be engaged in that particular type of movement. Okay, then we have movements of bones here that involve the mandible. Let's take a look at that. You can actually push your jaw forward so that your lower teeth are anterior to your upper teeth. This is called protraction. Okay, and you can go the other way. You can bring the mandible this way so that the lower teeth are sort of moving behind the upper teeth in that regard. Okay, so protraction and retraction, there are specific muscles we'll be learning in the muscles of mastication that do that for us. Okay, and notice that we also use this to some degree in our muscles of facial expression, although these are technically not muscles of facial expression, they are muscles of mastication. They do assist. Doesn't this person look determined? Right? That's a woman with, she's on a mission. It's like nothing will stop her. right? So that's the protraction movement right there. And then here's somebody who's like reconsidering their alternatives, right? So it's like, whoa, maybe not. So retraction is kind of like a slightly more fearful or hesitant type of expression. At least it can be used that way in expressing language and communication and human emotion. Okay, so there's that. Then we are involved strictly with the biting activity here, feeding routines of the mandible. So there's two things that can happen with the mandible. The mandible can lift up in elevation and we bite into food, or it can drop down. Depression, we can move the food toward the teeth and take yet another bite. Okay, and as it is with all crocodile wrestlers, should you be an alligator or a crocodile wrestler, always remember that when the animal is in this position, they're dangerous because the elevation is the strongest thing that we have practically. If you want to, oftentimes we do use our teeth as tools, which is unfortunate because then we scratch our teeth and things like that. Not a good idea to use teeth as tools. Don't open your beer bottles with your teeth. It's just not a right thing to do. However, if you want to wrestle somebody who's a biter, maybe you want to hold the jaw closed because the muscles that open the jaw in this direction are actually quite weak. Same thing with an alligator. So once the jaw is closed, it's very difficult to open the jaw against pressure. So the real forces, there's some really strong muscles here and up in here that we'll be learning about. Here we have what's referred to as opposition. And we actually have muscles that are called opponens pollicis and opponens digiti minimi, right? And what happens here is that we can bring the thumb and other fingertips. So I can cause my thumb to oppose these fingers right here. This is opposition. Now I happen to have an opponens in my digiti minimi, so I can really go maximally with my opponens over here. Okay, so that's part of the deal, is opposition that allows us to hold tools and to manipulate objects as tools. Okay, better to use tools than to substitute your body for the tool. Here they provide us with the actions of interest. So a planar joint will actually slide or glide across. Okay, so we have a glassy surface in both places. We have sliding going on. Over here we have a hinge joint. It might involve one or more sites of interaction, but the idea is that we're going to get flexion extension. That's all that we're going to get, flexion extension in the joint of that variety. Here, they're nice enough to give us the head of the radius. Isn't that nice? With its annular ligament going all the way around. And you can see how the head of the radius actually spins. It's actually spinning, it's rotating. And so in one direction of rotation, of course, we're getting supination. In the other direction, it's pronation. Okay, then we have over here a condyloid joint, and we referred to that before when I showed you this type of action. So condyloid joints are really quite capable of flexion, extension, abduction, adduction, and then circumduction. Important detail. Here we have at the base of the first metatarsal going to the trapezium, we have a saddle joint. Can you imagine that this is a cowboy with legs going on both sides coming down? Here's the saddle that he or she is sitting in. Even cowgirls sit on saddles, right? So the idea here is that you can move this way or you can move the saddle this way. So you get flexion, extension. Let's look at that. You get flexion, extension, and there's very specific muscles we'll be learning about. We'll have abduction and I'm sorry, adduction and abduction, like that. And so that means that we can do the circumduction at that type of joint, saddle joint. Okay, and then we have our famous joint right here for the shoulder and the hip, which is a ball and socket, and that gives us not only circumduction but rotation. Okay, just the way you like that.